This is Into the Fire.
I'd like to welcome to Into the Fire the incredibly talented young athlete, Australia's fastest 100-metre sprinter, and the pin-up boy for the Australian Olympic team in Japan, Rohan Browning. Nice to meet you, Rohan.
Thanks for having me on, LJ.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Now, you're a real late starter to athletics, aren't you? Considering you were playing rugby union at 16 years of age, what made you change across to athletics?
Well, that is a good question. And the truth is, I wasn't ever the best rugby player. I was not bad. I had a bit of speed and I was out on the wing. What state are you from, LJ? Can I ask that?
Adelaide.
From Adelaide. So you probably don't play that much rugby, probably well into AFL. And is that right?
Yeah, AFL, yeah.
Well, I played out on the wing or at fullback in rugby, where basically the quicker you are, the better that is. But, I probably wasn't the most skilled player. I certainly wasn't the biggest or necessarily the strongest. And really, I just had a little breakthrough in athletics when I was 16, when I, did a bit of training through winter and started going to the gym for the first time, and met my coach, Andrew Murphy, and he just really captivated my interest in the sport, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I do athletics, nowhere near at your level, but it can be a very lonely sport. How do you cope with that? And do you miss the team-orientated sports a bit?
I definitely do. I was always a real team sports kind of guy who had to learn to love the individual sport, right? Where, especially in a sport where, like in rugby, you have a whole team that you can depend on and to lift you up, and there's that element of fun. And then in track and field, your results are totally on you because your performance is just the time at the end of the race. It's all very simple. You either ran fast enough or you didn't. I had to get used to that. It's really tough when all of a sudden, if you run well, it's on your shoulders, and if you don't run well, it's still on your shoulders. It's still your burden to carry. So, I think it took a lot of honesty and good guidance from my coach, who sort of, helped me along the way to learning those lessons. But I love the team environment, which is why I so love being a part of the relay team, the Australian relay team, because it brings that team element back into what is normally a very individual sport.
Yeah, the team element is always good. Now, 3 years later, you ran a 10.08, and that is the third fastest time by an Australian of all time. Did you say to yourself that breaking that 10-second barrier is in your sights?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to be one of the best sprinters in the world and to make an Olympic final and win medals, you have to be able to run sub 10. So, I know that for me, running 10.08, if I improve my race by 1%, then that will take me sub 10. But really, to be a really good sub 10 runner, it's not about doing it once. It's about doing it again and again. So, I know I'm still a fair way off that point. So that's what I'm always trying to build towards. But, I can't kid myself and I can't talk myself up because I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get to the frustrating question out of the way early. You missed the Olympic qualifying by a fraction of a second. That must have been heartbreaking. But what do you need to qualify for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics?
That's a good question. So you're right. I did just miss the qualification last year in Perth, which was my first run for the year. So I ran 10.16 in the heats and 10.06 in the final with a 2.2 wind. And the Olympic qualification standard is 10.05 seconds, and the maximum allowable wind is 2 meters a second. So I had a 2.2, and that was the max is a 2.0. And I ran a 10.06 when you have to run 10.05 anyway. But that was so early in the season, so I definitely thought that I would run 10.05, or hopefully a bit better as the season progressed. But that just got shut down early because of COVID, and there was nothing I could do about that. So the qualification procedures open back up now. You either have to be top 56 in the world, and I think at the moment I'm like 43rd maybe. I have to check that. It might have updated recently, but you either are top 56 in the world on rankings or you run the time, which is 10.05. So I'm optimistic to try and run the time sometime in early 2021.
Yeah, that's a good mindset. Okay, so ranked 46th fastest man in the whole world is impressive. And so I'm pretty sure you'll qualify for the Olympics. The extra year for you has given you time to bridge the gap between the quickest runners. What are your chances of being super competitive in the 100 at the Olympics?
Well, we're just going to have to wait and see. I mean, I ran 10.08 last year, but I only did it once. So, if I can run 10.08 all the time, multiple times a year and make that my average performance for the year, then I can go into the Olympics and know, okay, in the heat I can run 10:08, and then in the semis I can run 10:08. Will that be good enough to make the final? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, maybe 10:05 is about the weakest time that would make a final in recent history. So, I think I still need to get better from where I am. And that's been the benefit this year for me with COVID is, even though maybe there were times where it was really difficult to train, I've been able to put together a long year of training and doing all the non-glamorous, sloggy sort of training that I don't normally get to do because I have to be racing all the time. So, because I didn't have that time pressure to race, I was able to get through much better training. So I'm hopeful that I'll be in better shape next year than I have been ever before.
Yeah, and I'm sure you will. Now, you personally are a terrific bloke, and the girls I've told I'm doing this interview say very nice on the eye. You actually said your coach told you it was a great way to meet girls. Do you have a girlfriend? Because you would kill it on Farmer Wants a Wife.
That is so funny. I do have a girlfriend. Her name's Alex. Why would I kill it on Farmer Wants a Wife?
I don't know. Have to ask the girls.
Do I just have that look?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, thank you. Well, maybe, are they taking auditions for next year?
Not sure. You'll have to ask.
Yeah, maybe I should look into that. What do you think?
Maybe you should. Yeah, I reckon. Okay.
Well, I'll see. I might have a look at that up after this.
All right. Okay, to all the ladies watching, you need to calm down. But this guy also speaks French. Is there anything you can't do? Give me a little bit of French, mate. Maybe say, I'd love to go into the fire with LJ.
I would love to go into the fire with LJ would be like, je voudrais aller dedans le feu avec LJ. That would be that. Maybe
Yeah.
there'd be a better translation, but I did a bit of French in high school and then I did it at university. So I think if I went and spent some time in France, I think I'd be able to speak it a lot better, which is probably what I need to do because it's slipping away every year that I don't practice it like I probably should.
Oh, well, it's pretty good.
Thanks.
Now, one of your goals was to make the top 8 in the world. How is that going? And do you think one day you could be standing on those starting blocks in an Olympic final?
Yeah, I'd like to hope so. I think any athlete in the 100 meters, and it's probably the same for any of the events in athletics, I think they all go into the Olympics thinking that, they're there to win or, and then from there you work backwards, win, get a medal, make a final, rah, rah, rah. So, people always, you have to attack it with that attitude because obviously only one person is going to win the Olympics and the odds are against you, but you have to go at it with that attitude if you're going to have a shot to begin with, right? And one of the best things I ever heard was, I think it was Dina Asher-Smith, the women's 200 meter world champion from Doha last year, was quoted saying something like a piece of advice she'd received once, where maybe it was a coach or someone had told her, when you run, you just have to run to win and to win a medal because once you're in the final, there's 3 medals that they're just given away. So somebody's got to get them. And 3 out of 8 places in the final is not the worst odds in the world.
Yeah, it's not. Now, athletics is all about pushing for that personal best. How hard is it to continually drop those times?
Well, it's hard, and it's a lot easier when you're a bit younger because you have so much room for improvement. And as you get a bit older and you start to do more and more training, you sort of start to level out until eventually, you reach your limit. But you're always just trying to get creative and figure out new ways to do things. And I'm still young. I'll be 23 next week on New Year's Eve, believe it or not. So I will be. Yeah, thank you. So that's still pretty young in sprinting terms. So hopefully I've got a few more good years ahead of me.
Yeah, definitely. So you have a real battle with teammate in the relay, Jack Hale. How do you get on? And does the fact that you guys are so close in times really push you to beat each other?
Yeah, it's really good to have somebody who's pushing you and all the time whenever you race because you just can't get complacent when you got somebody like Jack there who is always going to perform really well. So it definitely brings the best out in me. And we get along really well. I think maybe when we were a bit younger, when we were like 16 and going head to head and we were maybe a little bit less mature, we had a bit more of a competitive rivalry and we still have that competitive rivalry now, but we've spent a lot of time together over the years We were roommates together as a part of the relay at the Commonwealth Games in 2018. So we get along really well, and we've been a lot of teams together over the years.
Yeah, he's a legend. Jack Howe said, "You're only as good as your last run against him." What do you say to that?
Well, I would say I agree, because in my last run against him, he got disqualified, which means he came dead last. So I think he's right on the money.
You competed at the World Championship in the 4x100 relay, the closest team atmosphere you can get in running. How was that experience, and what are our chances at the Tokyo Olympics in this event?
Well, I think we have probably one of the best relay teams we've had in a long time in Australian history now. We've got a lot of guys who are running pretty quick times. And we've got a lot of guys now who are really committed to the relay program and turning up to camps and training together and putting in that important effort that makes the team perform so well. Because, you have these teams like, you might remember from the Rio Olympics, Japan came third, and they might not have had the 4 fastest men in the world, but they had 4 guys who are at a really elite level who just executed a near perfect relay, and they ended up winning an Olympic medal. So that's the recipe for success in the relay, is getting a team that gels well and can perform well and is able to get the baton around. Because you always know in the relay, there's always going to be chaos. There are always going to be teams that'll get disqualified. So you have to get the baton around as a first priority. And, you've got to get everybody running fast and performing to the best of the ability of the team.
Yeah. Speaking of the Olympics, I bet it would be an amazing opportunity if you make it. I know you will. But look, if you need someone to carry your bag, carry your shoes maybe, I do Japanese at school, and I went to Japan last year. I'm here for you, mate.
Oh, thank you. That's fantastic. Well, look, if they can let you in, first of all, if I qualify and if they let you into the village, I'd love to have you there as a baggage handler. I think you could be very, very useful.
Oh man, I'd love to come there.
Do you know how to say into the fire with LJ in Japanese? Or have you not covered that yet?
Don't actually. I should probably learn.
There's some homework for you. You should look into that.
Yeah, I will. So, where to here, Rowan? What's coming up for you?
Well, I'm going to see the year out. There's no more competitions now until the end of the year, and I'll start racing in January. So there's a few local meets. I'm really looking forward to going into state and running a few competitions like the ACT State Championships in Canberra in late January. I'll run a few races in Sydney and Brisbane, in Canberra, but really it's going to depend on the border closures and whether or not we can get into state, because if we can't, it's going to make qualification pretty tough. But we're just going to have to deal with that. Run local meets and try and run as fast as I can. Try and get that 10:05.
Yeah. Well, Ron, you're a lot of fun and a super guy. I know the 100 meter is the premier event, and you're coming up against guys with more swagger than Mick Jagger. So I'm here for you, mate. You're a down-to-earth bloke who just goes about his business with minimal fuss. But, mate, when you get on that biggest stage and win that huge title that you never thought possible, I don't want you to be left wondering how to celebrate. So I'm here to give you the greatest celebration of all time. And it's mine.
What's that?
The Into the Fire.
Like that?
Yeah, do you like that one?
I do like that. That was so much better than anything I could have come up with on my own. And I'll give you a hint for another guest that you might like, is Luke Matthews. Do you know Luke Matthews, the 800 meter, 1500 meter runner from Victoria? Because he has some great celebrations.
Oh, yeah.
But I think he could take that one on board as well. But I definitely will be.
I think he could.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I can't thank you enough for giving up time in the busy schedule you have, mate. I can't wait to see you have a big year and lead our team in the green and gold. Go and run like the wind, mate.
Thanks, LJ. Thanks for having me on. This has been one of the best interviews I've done in a long time.
Oh, it's been great.